There is one time greatest moment in the history of sports, and it happened in the 1932 World Series. The story goes at the bottom of the ninth inning, with two outs, a full count, and the tying run on base. Babe Ruth raised his arm and pointed to the center field bleachers. No one believed it, because nobody had ever done it before. But the Babe was calling a shot. On the next pitch, the great Bambino hit a towering 400-foot home run, and all that he became a hero before that. That's pretty much how he became a legend. 30 years later, a kid named Sonic the Hedgehog became a neighborhood legend. And it was the greatest summer of Sonic and Tails' life. And when they taught them how to play baseball, and they became their best friends. Mike, Slowly, Arthur, and DW. And they got them into the biggest pickle they ever be in. Sonic and Tails moved into the neighborhood 2 weeks before school went out. It was the same summer that Dodger Murray Wills would break the stolen bases record. So something with that incredible happened going on. It should have started with loads of great things happening for them. But it didn't. They were from another state and they didn't have a single friend in 1,000 miles. It was a lousy way to end up the ninth grade, because they had zip time to make friends before summer. And that's where it all started. Sonic and Tails' grandpa died when they were just little kids. Their mom, Ember, married Wade right before they moved into the valley. So them and Wade started to get used to each other. They followed them to the sandlot once after school. They'd never seen any place like it. It was like their own little baseball kingdom or something. It was the greatest place they ever seen him anyway. But they're all good, like really good. And all they had was a plastic toy mitt that their grandmother gave them for their birthdays when they were 14 and 8 years old. But when they finally got up enough guts to go out there and try to make friends, they found out that they never kept score. They'd never choose sides. They never really stopped playing the game. It just went off forever. Every day they picked up right where they left off the day before. It was like an endless dream game. There was only 4 of them, so they didn't have a whole team. So even though Tails doesn't know how to play, but Sonic loves to play, they figured out they could be part of the 6th team and maybe just stand in the outfield in summer and take up some space. Of course, they would have known what was going to happen when they got there. They probably would have never gone. If it wasn't for Sonic and Tails, they never would have made a single friend that summer. Because all of the rest of those guys thought they were lost causes. Even before they became friends, Sonic and Tails were connected. Connected that one moment later that summer, when they got them into the biggest pickle they have ever seen. They had no idea what they were talking about, but there was no way they could let them know. So, they lied. That night, they were more than 150 baseballs had gone over that fence. Not one of them was ever seen again. Even when some brave hedgehog or fox worked up over the courage to peek over. Because when they went over there, they vanished. And they knew it was true. Because when they looked down there, they never saw a single solitary one. Sonic would have played ball all day, all night, rain, shine, tidal wave, whatever. Baseball was the only thing they cared about. But all of the things that they ever did besides baseball, going to the pool was what they tolerated best. And even none of them had ever seen a Playboy magazine, which we constantly lied about. They figured going to the pool was the next thing to be there. It wasn't really the pool honey was like they said. Because if any one of them had to come up with any of them, they just wet their pants. They all went because Francine Frensky was the lifeguard. And one day, it became too much for Arthur Timothy Reed. And he did the most desperate thing any of them had ever seen. Arthur Timothy Reed walked a little taller that day. He was lucky that Francine hadn't beat the crap out of him. They wouldn't blame her. What he done was sneaky, rotten, low, and cruel. Not another one among us. He would have waited a million years and even for $1 million had the guts to put the move on the lifeguard. He did. He kissed a woman. He kissed her long and good. They got banned from the pool forever that day, but every time they walked by after that, Francine looked down from the tower, right over at Arthur, and smiled. There was only one night game a year. On the 4th of July, the whole sky would have brightened up with fireworks, giving us just enough light for a game. They played their best then, because I guess they felt like big leaguers under the lights of some great stadium. Sonic felt like that all the time. They all knew that he was going to go on with bigger and better games, because every time they stopped to watch the sky all those nights like regular kids, he was there to call them back. You see, for them, baseball was a game, but for Sonic the Hedgehog, baseball was life. They were all walking on air that night. It had been a solid victory. In fact, they beat the crap out of those guys. So they all went to celebrate. And they did the most stupidest thing any of them had ever done. A couple days after they all got over acting like big shots, they swore off the hard stuff forever and just stuck to bazooka. The day they all got back together for some baseball was the day Sonic and Tails got into the biggest pickle of all time. And it all started with an omen. It was so in the open wound. Even Sonic and Tails' mom, a grown-up fire girl, knew who Babe Ruth was. They were dead meat. They thought that ball Sonic had busted the guts out of meant something amazing was gonna happen. Now Tails just figured out it meant their lives were over. Sonic and Tails' lives were over, just as Wade finally warmed up to them and asked them to be the man of the house. They had to knock a priceless chunk of history out of the clutches of a monster. Great. Tails had a dream that night about a giant baseball signed by Babe Ruth falling out of the sky and hammering to me like a railroad spike. I didn't know what that meant. But actually, Sonic had a dream that was more helpful than before. Only one hedgehog in history had ever to attempt what Sonic was about to do. He got eaten. So they were so worried, like real worried. When Sonic brought the secret weapon, the same shoes that guaranteed to make the hedgehog run faster and jump higher than before. Even though Wade loved the murderer's roll ball, although he is still pretty mad about Sonic and Tails swiping his Babe Ruth autograph ball and ruining it. So Sonic and Tails didn't feel too bad when he grounded them for a week, instead of the rest of their lives. Things worked out between them, and then on, they didn't have any trouble. They lived in the neighborhood for a couple more years, mostly through junior high school, and every summer was great, but none of them ever came close to the first one. But we still stayed in the neighborhood for quite a long time right about now. It was kind of weird that Sonic said that Babe Ruth was like the Hercules of baseball. None of us could figure out what that meant. Me and Sonic and Tails got in touch up with these guys over the last few weeks. They found out that Arthur was the author of his very own book. So we all bought the book and decided to read his own adventures. Mike and Sully were all Monsters Incorporated scarers / laughters of laughing and scaring children. Even though they don't scare children anymore, they still do laughter. And until Amy and Cosmo became Sonic and Tails' boyfriends, and they became good friends and joined the team forever. Doug appears to be 59 years old in dog years. But then after we stopped playing the game in baseball, the Sandlot was still there. And then we go on a next adventure for their next journey for years to come.